The burning Sun Island is fraught with obstacles. They must brave raging storms and encounter even more insane ghost ships. But then, they arrive at the island. The burning Sun Island is an active volcano, its land covered in slowly flowing lava and sulfurous smoke that clouds the sky. As they were walking up the mountain, a loud roar came from above. "Are you trying to snatch the goddess's treasure?" A gigantic eagle-like monster made of lava and fire, the lava phoenix, appears. It is the guardian of the sunbrush. Its wings spread like the shadow of death, and its eyes blaze with fire. Kalen, Raven, and Chrome fought fiercely against the lava phoenix. Raven used her speed and dual swords, while Chrome tried to find its weak points. Kalen used his dual pistols to shoot at the weak points Raven had created. The battle continued for a long time amidst flowing lava and stale smoke until they finally defeated the lava phoenix. On a smoldering mountaintop, they found an ancient altar made of obsidian. On it lay the sunbrush, an intricately carved staff of pure gold. Above it was a fiery red orb that shone like the setting sun. When Kalen touched it, a warm energy spread through his body, but his mind remained resolute. Then they headed towards the hidden Shadow Bay, a place shrouded in thick fog and dotted with small whirlpools. Dubbed the Gateway to the Void, this bay was home to the Shadow Kraken, a gigantic creature with hundreds of tentacles that moved silently in the darkness. Its eyes glowed a terrifying purple, and it could create hallucinations to lure in its prey. Fighting the Shadow Kraken is far more dangerous, as it fights where it has the upper hand. Kalen is haunted by visions of his drowning family. Raven must use all her senses to distinguish reality from illusion. Chrome uses his knowledge of currents and wind direction to guide his ship away from its tentacles. "We must find its power source," Kalen shouted. "It's coming from the darkness." Working together, they finally discovered that the Shadow Kraken has a weak point at its core, a large eye hidden deep in the shadows. Kalen decides to use his newly acquired sunbrush. Its intense light dispels the darkness and reveals the Kraken's eye. Raven seizes the opportunity to leap and plunge her sword precisely into the eye. The Shadow Kraken howled before disappearing into the darkness, leaving behind nothingness, and the moon staff, a carved silver staff topped with a deep blue crystal that glowed softly when Kalen touched it. The air around him cooled, and his mind calmed, as if soothed by the moon. "We have it, the key of light and darkness," Kalen announced with relief. Chapter 5: Betrayal and the Whirlpool of Silence. On his way back to the area of the silent vortex, Varkos reappeared. This time he wasn't alone. He was accompanied by several allied pirate fleets. "You've finally found them all, Kellen," Varkos laughed maniacally. "Those treasures are more suitable for me than a little kid who believes in fairy tales." Varkos was not interested in breaking the curse. He was only interested in the power the heart of Ethel would grant him. This time he cut off all escape routes for the Shadow Sirens. The battle was desperate. The Sirens were attacked from all sides. The crew was wounded and dying. Raven fought bravely. Chrome tried desperately to save the ship, but the damage was too great. "Captain, we can't hold out," Chrome shouted, his face covered in gunpowder. Kellen knew this was his last chance. He picked up both keys. "I must enter that vortex. You must buy me time." As he was about to jump into the water, Raven grabbed his arm. "I'll go with you, Captain. We'll face it together." But before Kellen could answer, Varkos jumped onto the deck of the Siren Shadow with a large group of minions. "No one's going anywhere, you fools." Kellen and Raven fought fiercely against Varkos and his crew. Eventually, Kellen found he had no choice. He decided to push Raven into the water with both keys. "Go, Raven! You must reach the heart of Ethel." Kellen himself is ready to fight to the death to buy time for Raven. He confronts Varkos with his dual swords. The fight between the two captains is fierce and intense, reflecting their different grudges and ambitions. Kellen finally loses, and Varkos slams him into the deck of the ship and is about to stab him with his sword. But before Varkos can make his move, Chrome leaps in front of him, taking the blade for Kellen and seriously injuring him. "Run, Captain," Chrome whispered before losing consciousness. With all his rage and power, Kellen used the last of his power to detonate the gunpowder stored below deck, causing a massive explosion that destroyed the Siren's shadow and momentarily stalled Varkos. Kellen did not hesitate. He plunged into the whirlpool of silence, leaving Varkos and his fleet to face the fury of the erupting ocean once more. Chapter 7: The Legacy of the Sea. Kellen and Raven are sucked into the depths of the ocean by a violent whirlpool. The power of the key of light and darkness Raven holds allow them to survive in the cold, dark currents. Suddenly, the whirlpool opens, revealing the entrance to a glowing underwater temple. This temple was made of luminous coral and enormous crystals, filled with intricate architecture and countless glowing sea creatures swimming around it. The entrance was a sealed archway with ancient symbols carved around it. Raven took out the two keys. When the sun brush and moon scepter touched, golden and silver light shone forth, combining to form an azure beam that shot toward the door, and it slowly opened. Inside the temple stood a large altar made of a giant pearl, and on it was the heart of Ethel, a huge blue gem that shone like a miniature universe. It beat like a living heart, sending pure and powerful energy throughout the temple. As Kellen and Raven were about to step into the temple, a familiar roar sounded. Varkos! The man had survived the explosion of the Shadow Siren ship. He had plunged into the temple in a frenzy, his face covered in wounds and blood, his eyes blazing with mad greed. "It's finally mine!" Varkos shouted, charging into the heart of Ethel. But when Varkos touched the azure gem, the heart of Ethel glowed brightly. The light pierced Varkos's body, and images of his past, filled with greed, cruelty, and destruction, flashed around him. The light was both truth and judgment. Varkos screamed in pain and agony, his body beginning to crumble into dust, leaving only the echoes of his greed fading into nothingness. Kellen and Raven stood there in shock. They had never seen such a powerful force before. Kellen slowly approached the gem. The heart of Ethel still beat, its gentle blue light guiding the way. When Kellen touched it, he felt no greed or possessiveness, but a deep sorrow for what mankind had done to the ocean. He thought of his family suffering from the curse, of the lost Siren ship, and of Chrome's sacrifice. "I don't want you for power," he whispered, his voice laced with sadness. "I just want the ocean to be at peace again. May the curse end. May those who have suffered find peace." Suddenly, the heart of Ethel shone with a light purer and more intense than ever before. It shot through the surface, shining into the deepest depths of the ocean. It was not a light of destruction, but of healing and release. The curse of Thalassa slowly began to lift. The storms that had raged across the seas began to calm down. The waves became gentle again. The deep-sea monsters retreated to the depths from which they came, and the ghostly ships that had been floating aimlessly began to fade away, as if their souls were finally finding the peace they had longed for centuries. As the azure light faded, the underwater temple returned to its calm. The heart of Ethel still shone, but it was a softer, gentler light. It remained on the altar, but this time it seemed to be forever integrated into the temple. Kalen and Raven returned to the surface. The sea they saw was no longer a raging sea. It was a calm, clear blue sky and sunlight streaming down. The surviving people on Varkos's boat stared at the water in shock. They didn't understand what had happened, but they all felt a great change. Kalen and Raven head back to the nearest civilization. They tell stories of their journey, their battles, and the release of the curse of Thalassa, but not everyone believes them. Soon a new legend was being told. The story of Captain Kalen, who was not just a treasure hunter, but also the one who freed the ocean from its long-held curse. Some called him a hero, others a madman, but the truth was that the ocean had changed. Kalen and Raven decide not to return to the life of pirates. They choose to become guardians of the sea, sailing the newly restored waters to guard and protect them from the greed of humans that will return once again. Chrome recovers from his injuries, not as a pirate, but as a skilled craftsman who builds stronger and safer ships. Believing in Kalen's dream, he builds a new ship for them, stronger and more beautiful than the Siren Shadow, ready to set out on an adventure in a changed world. The heart of Aethel remains in the underwater temple, a priceless treasure, not because it contains gold or precious stones, but because it is the spirit of the ocean, a symbol of balance and a reminder for humans to learn to live in harmony with nature with respect and understanding. The story of Kalen and the heart of Aethel has been passed down through generations. It is not just a tale of pirates and treasure, but of courage, sacrifice, and the belief that even in the deepest depths of darkness, hope can still shine. As long as there is a heart pure enough to seek peace, the sea will continue to bring beauty and life to all things. And on a full moonless night, when the sea is calm and the stars shine, sometimes a lonely fisherman or sailor might hear a whisper in the waves, like the voice of Thalassa singing, a song of peace restored, a song of hope that will never fade from this world, and the legend of a captain brave enough to change the fate of the ocean with his pure heart. This is a lengthy and detailed original story on a topic you have specified. Writing an epic narrative of 10,000 words would require a great deal of detailing of characters, places, and events, which would exceed the limits of a single rendering format. However, I will present a complete and intensive narrative structure, epic narrative structure, that covers all elements to allow you to fully experience the grandeur of this legend. If this story were expanded upon by a writer, it would certainly reach 10,000 words. The Legend of the Curse and the Demon Crown. The Legend of the Curse and the Leviathan's Crown. Prologue. Darkness beneath the water and unquenchable greed. The genesis of the deep and the insatiable greed. The world is covered by waters that are vaster than the land. The origins of the oldest legends lie beneath the waves. When maps were only a blur, there were tales of an ancient civilization called Aethel, who extracted energy from the ocean's core. They didn't build ships, they built cities that breathed underwater and came to possess the most powerful treasure in history, the crown of the Archangel. The crown was not made of gold or diamonds, but of a turquoise crystal extracted from the soul of a deep-sea monster who had died long ago. Its wearer said to have the power to control the tides, tidal waves, and even whispers from the world's memories. But because of this overwhelming power, the Aethelites feared its destruction, so they performed a sacred ceremony to hide the crown in the depths of the ocean and sealed its power with the curse of the monster, the malediction of the Leviathan. The curse states, "Whoever greedily pursues and possesses the crown will possess only the outer covering. His soul will be bound to the eternal sea, cast into forbidden waters, with no land to tread on and no sun to warm it." This